Okay, in tonight's shop talk, we're going to talk about layout numbers and what they mean. How your pro shop operator uses those layout numbers to get you a ball that strikes more and scores higher. Tonight, we're going to lay out a Supernova 5.5 by 4 by 2 1/4. First of all, before we start laying the ball out, let's talk about the markings of the ball and what those things mean to the pro shop operator. This locator pin is the top of the core. Okay, we call that the pin. There's usually a mark that marks the CG of the ball. That's the center of gravity. If the ball were to be balanced upside down, this would be the heavy spot of the ball. Down here, in an asymmetrical ball, and like this ball is, this is your mass bias marking. Not all balls will have these. Only a ball that is asymmetrical will have a mass bias marking. So this ball, being asymmetrical, has a locator pin here, your CG here, and your mass bias marking there. Okay, knowing that we're going to lay the ball out 5.5 by 4 by 2 1/4, the first thing we do is use a grease pencil, like this one here, and a layout tool like this one here from Storm. There are many different kinds of ways to do it, but we're going to use those tools to make a mark 5.5 inches from the pin. This is going to mark our pin to pap arc right here. 5.5 inches from the pin to that line all the way around. Okay? Now again, using the Storm layout tool, we've made a second arc. This arc is 4 inches from the mass bias, which is here, to this line is 4 inches all the way around this arc. That is the second number in our Storm layout of 5.5 by 4 by 2 1/4. Now where these two marks intersect, that's eventually going to be our pap. Okay? The third number in our Storm layout, our VLS layout, is this arc here that is 2 1/4 inches from the pin. We made this arc here 2 1/4 from the pin, and that is the third number from our Storm layout, VLS layout of 5.5 by 4 2 1/4. Now the next thing your Storm Pro Shop operator is going to do is going to draw a line tangent to this third arc. This arc here, we call this the pin buffer arc. It's 2 1/4 from the pin all along this arc, and that pin buffer is going to be a line drawn tangent to the pin buffer right through the other two arcs where they intersect down here. This is going to be what we call the VAL, or the vertical access line. Okay, now your Pro Shop operator is going to use your personal PAP, or your personal PAP, we call it, personal access point, to figure out from this point here. This is going to be your positive access point. If your positive access point is 1 up and 5 across, then your Pro Shop operator will do the opposite. He'll go down 1, in this case 1 inch down, because the PAP we're using is 5 inches over by 1 inch up. And from this point here, we're going to do 5 inches across and figure out what 5 inches across is, and that's be the center of our grip line. Now, using that PAP of 5 inches up, or 5 inches over by 1 inch up, we draw this line across 5 inches. That intersects here. This is the center of the bowler's grip now. And the finger hole is going to go up there, and the thumb hole is going to go here. And now we know that this point here on the side of the ball is going to be the bowler's positive access point. We measured backwards to get to where we want to put the ball. The hole is going to go up there and up here. And we have our bowler's layout in the ball. This ball is laid out 5.5 by 4 by 2 1/4. Now the question is, what do these numbers mean and how do they affect the ball motion? Okay, the first number in the series, the 5.5, that number controls the flare potential of the ball. 3 3/8 will be max flare. Any number above 3 3/8 or below 3 3/8 is less flare overall, and it controls how the ball shapes after it makes its move. But 3 3/8 would be max flare, 5.5 would be a little bit less flare. 6 3/4 to about 0 is your range. But again, 3 3/8 is right in the middle, and that is maximum amount of flare. The second number controls the ball's asymmetry. And a ball like this that is asymmetrical, that asymmetry makes the ball a little firmer off the spot at 3 3/8, and it decreases the ball's firmness off the spot below 3 3/8 or above 3 3/8. Again, decreases the ball's firmness off the spot when it starts to hook. The final number, this 2 1/4, we call that the transition number, the pin buffer. That controls how fast the ball goes from skid to roll to hook. A ball at about 1 inches transitions much quicker. A ball that is 3, 3.5, 4 transitions much slower. Generally speaking, this number can control how angular the ball is off the spot. Usually numbers about 1 are usually very angular, and balls that are 3.5 or 4 are much smoother and rounder off the spot, and much easier to control. Okay. So with our layout here, 5.5 by 4 by 2.5, we're going to get a ball that has a little less flare, be a little longer down the lane, with a pretty strong asymmetry on the ball, and a 2.5-inch pin buffer. This ball is going to be a pretty strong ball. It has a very strong cover, so the 5.5 will help the ball get down the lane a little bit, so it doesn't use up all its energy too early. It'll have lots of strength when it makes its corner, and the 2.5 number should help us get about an average transition time. Not too quick and use up all of its energy and roll out, but also not too slow that it doesn't get the corner made and kick that 10 out. On a strong ball like this Storm Supernova, this layout will produce lots of hook, but a controllable motion that will get the ball down the lane and should be able to be used on both the fresh conditions and maybe even a little bit of transition, depending on the bowler's rev rate and ball speed. That's tonight's Tech Talk with RTR Bowling. Join us again next time, and we hope to see you in the shop and on the lanes. Good luck and good bowling.